Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Gospel of Comics. I'm your host, the Church of Failure, and with me, as always, is Ayrton McCartney.
And I'm not fired yet.
Today, actually, I came close in the pre-show. What's going on, everybody, in the chat? Looks like we got Becky and Gulf City Cult of Krill already in there with us. Thanks for stopping by, guys. Tonight we are launching the first, technically second signature series. The first would, I guess, have to be Lock and Key, which we haven't quite finished yet. But Becky's ready to take your spot here. But this will be the first official format of the signature series, and it will be The Boys, Volume 1 and 2. Even if it kills us, we will get through both volumes tonight.
Speak for yourself.
Even if it kills Ayrton, we will get through both volumes tonight. But no, I guess I'll go ahead and kind of explain what the signature series is. We will be covering 2 volumes of this story once a month until we're done, basically. There are 12 volumes as of right now. The show is going to apparently premiere around July.
July 26th.
So that'll be kind of in the middle of us reading this. So we will attempt to watch the show and talk about it in comparison to the actual comic book. We've got the next couple of shows planned out, and we'll talk about that a little further at the end of the stream if we have some time. But I'd say we just go ahead and get right into it, unless you've got anything you want to
add. Let's dive in. This one's a wild ride.
It really is. So, like I said, the name of this title is The Boys. The basic premise of it is a very cynical outlook.
It is not homoerotica.
It is the very cynical outlook of what it would be like to have superheroes in the real world, and that's about as brass tacks as you can get to it. It's very deconstructionist, so it really breaks down what makes a superhero tick and humanizes it to a fault. So you're gonna get some very interesting situations in this comic, but. We open up, we're introduced to Billy the Butcher. That'd be his boot there, stomping this guy's face into the ground. So you already kind of have an idea.
As you do.
Yeah, you already kind of have an idea of what you're dealing with here. The Boys is written by Garth Ennis, and Garth Ennis is very known for his graphic writing. Let's see, the pencils. I had the name here. Let me find it. Look at all those tabs. All right.
To make sure your screen share isn't going out live.
There you go. All right. Illustrations are by Derek Robertson with an A, Darick. It's lettered by Greg Thompson and Simon Boland, and is colored by Tanya Avina. The cover is also by Robertson and Avina, so it's very, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Fluid, I guess, transition. Sometimes you pick up a book.
I was going to say synergistic, but
yeah. Sometimes you pick up a book based on the cover, and the interior art is just nothing like the cover. We've seen a couple of those books on the show, actually. The covers for Adolescent Radioactive Black Belt Hamsters. Nothing like the first couple of issues. The art just flip-flopped all over the place. Not that it was a bad thing. It worked with the story, but with a story like this, I'm really glad that they don't oversell the covers and undersell the
interiors. Yes. Yeah, that would make it very disappointing.
So we jump into volume 1, and we're introduced to a gentleman by the name of Billy the Butcher. And Billy the Butcher is not a very nice character. He's the gentleman with
he's a bit of a dick.
Yeah, he's the gentleman with the brown hair, or the black hair, I guess. I'll pull him up on screen. He also has a dog. So I'll give you a glance at Billy here. Billy and Terror hanging out. Terror is my favorite character in the entire book, by the way. Him and Love Sausage, who we'll get to in Volume 2. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, there is a character coming up called Love Sausage. If you're not okay with that, then you should probably turn this off right now, because if it's not exactly what you think, it's worse.
And it was worse than I thought it was going to be.
So that's Billy Butcher and Terror there, and you get kind of an insight into the kind of person he is with just this one simple quote on this page. So got that going for you. This is page 2, I believe, of the entire book. So it pretty much dumps you right into what you're going to be dealing with here.
Yeah, it was a pretty good introduction to who he is as a character, I thought.
Then we meet Wee Huey, who is impeccably drawn to look like Simon Pegg. Impeccably. I like impeccably. But he is a Scottish fellow, and you can tell that from his his linguistics. We have a Scot, an Englishman, an American, a Frenchie, and a female of unknown origin.
So all the demographics.
Yes. But we're also introduced to our first super, and there's a fight going on, and you can see in this panel on the second page here that the fight killed Wee Huey's girlfriend and left him holding her arms. So they don't really pull any punches with the story. We just get right into the fact as to how these two characters are going to meet. But
yes, and the brutality of it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just, well, I mean, you had already kind of told me some of this stuff before I read it, but even then, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, this is
some of the stuff in this book is just insane.
Right. So A-Train is fighting someone, and he threw that person through Wee Huey's girlfriend and just crammed her into the wall. That's her behind the guy being crushed into the wall there. So I'm not going to pull it up on screen, but if you want to check it out, the link's below to buy this. I think it's like $5 or $6. Definitely worth it per volume.
Definitely.
But we'll get to that at the end. But something I've started doing is linking to where you can find digital or physical copies, if at all possible, of these books. I have such a massive collection of comic books, both digital and physical, that some of the stuff that I have you're never going to find online or digitally, and some of it you can just buy for $1. So if I can, I'll put it out there to where you guys can find it if you want to read it and get the full story or comment on it or whatever. So hopefully that'll help somebody out. But anyway, A-Train is the gentleman moving at the very quick speed that almost takes Huey out, and basically tells him in no uncertain terms to get out of the way after being responsible for the murder of the man's girlfriend. And then you have the whole thing plays out pretty much like you'd expect. The cleanup crew comes in, and they try and they try and keep Huey quiet about it and get him to sign some paperwork, offer him some money, which he doesn't take. You get a glimpse into the life that he's been living in Scotland. You see the marijuana device and the pills and the drinking that's been going on since he lost his girlfriend. I'm guessing that's how he's coping.
Did you say marijuana device?
I did. The marijuana apparatus, the bong, if you will.
Do you smoke marijuana cigarettes?
The left-handed devil's lettuce? Of course not. I'm a law-abiding American. No, but seriously, I don't give a shit. Yes, I've been known to indulge before. The point is you know, I'm a little iffy on just throwing out the paraphernalia names. I don't want to promote drug use on the channel. That's clearly against YouTube's
Well,
terms of service.
well, the proper industry term is water pipe, if you want to keep yourself safe.
Ah, yes, the well, here it's implied that it is a marijuana device. So the marijuana water pipe, and I'm quite fine with my wording. Thank you. Let's take a look at chat and see if anybody's making fun of me yet. Oh yeah, there we go.
Yes.
Retro Ray, right there with it.
Yep.
Robin Riviera, Retro Ray. Thanks for dropping in, guys. Good to have you. It's a tobacco pipe. That is correct. But the government stooges come in and they try and get Huey to sign the forms and basically release liability and all that good stuff, which he does.
But I want to talk about how this sequence is written real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
It kind of took me a second to figure out what was going on in it. I thought maybe a page was missing in the digital copy that I got or something, because it's literally just mostly from his perspective, except for just the couple of panels, but it's just a bunch of word bubbles just throughout the entire panel
with no arrows.
And it's very, very disjointing until you realize, oh, okay, he's drugged and drunk off of his ass right now, and you're reading this from his perspective, and it's supposed to be kind of just disjointed. He's not really paying attention to what they're saying, and it's just kind of, yeah, okay, whatever.
Can we just,
and I thought it once I understood what they were doing with it, it flowed really nicely.
Right. Can we just take a minute to just appreciate what his t-shirt says? God's third leg. I just wanted to point that out. There's little subtle shit like that all through this book, and there's.
Do you not have a T-shirt like that?
No, I have a tattoo like that.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah. I'm a church, goddammit. But
so it's a mural, technically, not a tattoo.
Now, the problem with this comic, and I'll go ahead and point this out while we're going over it, but there's just so many scenes that you can't show in this book
that we want to.
Right.
Yes, Retro Ray, a stained glass window. That's a good one too.
There you go. Yeah.
Anyways.
But there's so many scenes in this book that are blatantly against YouTube's terms of service. So, as a church and synagogue, I'd like to just point out that we're just commenting on another's work. We do not endorse the ideas of Garth Ennis or any of the ideas in this comic book.
I mean, speak for yourself.
I always do. Why you're always fired by the end of the show. But
or disavowed, either way.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's one and the same at this point. We flash back to A-Train, and we see that his whole thing in Scotland, because he's from America, so he's dealing with the Scottish police, and he's just like, you guys have somebody that can take care of this stuff, right? I don't really have to do anything. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and get the hell out of here. He really has no remorse for what he's done.
And he just
there's a woman plastered
fucks
on the
off
wall.
back to America.
Yeah. He's bragging about how he did it and all that good stuff. But and then you flash forward to Billy Butcher, who's had a meeting with one of the higher ups in the CIA, basically giving him his authority to form his old group again. And
a very close meeting.
Yes. They were boning one another in her office, even though they hate one another. And it's a recurring theme of this, but it's very
It
graphic,
is.
and you really can't show that shit on YouTube either. So this is not your kid's comic. This is not something you want to leave on the coffee table for when good company comes over. This is
Yeah,
this
yeah. Grandma's coming for Sunday after church brunch. You have these laying on the table.
right,
If you want an awkward conversation with grandma, go for it.
right. I just don't advise it. But you know, he's had this meeting, and now he's essentially gone to pull out a henchman to help him fill in the mysteriously vacant fifth slot of his team. So we don't know why, and I don't think we find out in these two volumes. But there's a man named Mallory who has mysteriously left the organization, and it was defunded and declassified and all that good shit once already. But now Butcher is reforming the group, and he's gotten everybody together. But here you see him doing research on Huey Campbell and deciding that he's going to recruit him. Also, while just completely bashing this poor office monkey, who he literally calls Monkey, um, to pieces. The panel right before this, you see him kneeing this guy in the balls. So they have a very friendly relationship, I guess you could say. But
to put it nicely.
yeah, so Butcher's the kind of guy that gets his way, and you'll see that more and more as the actual story comes to a close, like the actual two volumes. You'll see him abusing that I don't know what you would call it, methodical nature that he has to get
Way
his
with
way.
words.
Well, not even that. Way with people. He's very manipulative. But this is where we end book one, volume one. Huey is crying about life on a bench, and then you zoom out and you see that Butcher's just sitting there talking to him. Or just sitting there. They're not even speaking yet, but Butcher and Terror are right there. So, not a lot of over introduction in the first episode. I feel like the first volume is stretched out to really give you a feel of what this is supposed to be.
Well, I think you get a pretty good feel of these two as characters.
Right, but I mean it's a 5 character team, and you're only introduced to 2 members, which
Sure.
is something you don't get in a lot of comic books. A lot of comic books try to force feed you the whole backstory in one issue, and I think it really takes away from what you end up dealing with.
Yeah, and it's like in some like movies and TV show adaptations, like we've talked about, is they try and rewrite it to over explain things that you really don't need to over explain. Like that's kind of the charm of the story,
Right.
is some of the mystery behind it.
Well, and like I said, that kind of brings us into to issue 2, and issue 2, the cover is the classified folder with the photos spilling out of it on a pile of blood. But then you're introduced to Mallory, or not Mallory, Rayner. Rayner is her name, and she is the head of the CIA organization that gives these guys their clearance. Essentially, she's their power source.
I was going to say bank account, but
well, money's not everything in this world, but it damn sure goes a long
true.
way. But she's the one that gets them their what's the stuff called? Their Formula V or whatever.
Yeah, something like that.
She's the one that gets them their superpower juice and all that shit. So she's the head of their organization, but she absolutely hates the guy that runs it, and she tries to foil him at every chance. So you got that going for you, which is nice.
I do enjoy the relationship.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's kind of dynamic. It's not very Batman and Jim Gordon. There's no mutual respect there. They hate each other.
They understand how each other is useful
Right.
to the to them.
Well, I'm gonna pull these two pages up together. They don't happen back to back in the book. We'll go over what happens in the meantime. But this is why Terror is my favorite character. He will hump things on command, and he's just this big, fat, slobbering English bulldog that I think has been ingested with superhero formula. I honestly suspect that he has the superhero formula running through him as well.
I mean, I would expect that.
But on command, he will hump whatever he is commanded to hump. And this is the first thing that's made Huey laugh since his girlfriend died. And that's how Butcher kind of breaks the ice with him to convince him to come back to America and join their little club. In the middle of that, we are introduced to the Frenchman. Now, let's talk about the Frenchman for a minute.
I don't even know what to say about him. He's just batshit insane, right?
Yes, but he's the only person that the female will talk to or interact with
without killing.
Yes. So he's a necessary evil. Now, of the five people in this group, the two smallest ones, except for Huey, are the muscle. And this is one of them. This is the Frenchman. He's just minding his own business at a cafe, but, three Americans decide to start making fun of him, and he just brutally whips the shit out of them.
I mean,
in French.
I might have to start thinking twice before I make fun of French people from now on.
I mean, I would. Have you seen the yellow vest shit that they're doing? Okay.
I mean, French Canadians are worse because they're wannabe French, and why would you want to be French?
Yeah. Becky, the artwork is pretty amazing. I mean, you don't get this kind of artwork very often. I know I say that damn near every episode, but you don't. We haven't covered that many bad comics. I can, but I just don't want to. Like a lot of the stuff.
Just you wait.
Yeah, we're gonna run out of good comics to cover eventually. I'm afraid. Like, or we're just gonna.
You told me to pick something out for. Middle of next month. Just you wait.
That doesn't mean you have to pick something bad. Be a good person. Read good comics. I may have to overrule you if I get my if I get any of my Comicsgate books in by then. I'm working on getting us a copy.
Fair enough.
Working on getting us a copy of Jawbreakers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just very expensive.
Yeah.
But
that's why I haven't bought a copy yet.
But if I can get my hands on it, we will cover it. I'm sure I could go out there and download it or whatever because of Anti-Comicsgate, but I'm gonna see if I can at least get my hands on a physical copy before we do any kind of digital copy of it because I got a lot of respect for the Comicsgate people.
Oh yeah.
But this is the Frenchman, and you don't fuck with the Frenchman. So that's pretty much what this is letting us in on.
And he's got those cool goggles.
Yes, those goggles are very, very important. He meets back up with Butcher, and all of this is happening. You don't really have a clear, cohesive timeline because there's a lot of jumping around going on in this book, but Butcher's having meetings with the whole team at this point. And the next stop obviously is going to be the female. And we're introduced to the female.
Which I love this.
Yes. she
By the way,
doesn't.
this introduction is probably my favorite one.
Yeah, she doesn't speak an entire. Like, I don't know that she ever actually speaks in the first two volumes,
No.
but she says she speaks volumes with her actions. Here we see her being invited into a house, and they think they're going to assault her because she's rolled up on the wrong house. And I believe she's working for the mob at this point. And she
Yeah,
walks,
something like that.
yeah, she walks into the house, and then you see someone's face being slapped up against a window and just sliding down. So that's nice, and Butcher, pretty much covers it and just said lovely, and that that kind of gives you a an idea of what you're working with here. Also, notice the difference in the background color of the pages. This is the digital copy from Dynamite, so the background color of the pages alternating is kind of interesting. Not something you necessarily notice when you're reading the book,
Oh, no, I didn't notice that.
but yeah, this isn't because of the reader or anything like that. This is how the actual book is printed. I've got physical copies of a lot of the series, so
Huh.
yeah. So that's the female. So we're only missing one member at this point, and that would be Mother's Milk is his name.
Or MM.
Retro Ray, what do you mean? Nothing like an actual comic? The artwork? Do you mean current comics, or are you talking just strictly from classics, or?
Or are you being a smartass?
I mean, either way is fine. I'm not mad at you. I'm just curious as to what you mean, so that I can respond to it. The final member,
Clarify, man.
the final member of the team that we're going to be introduced to is Mother's Milk, and this is a single dad who has stepped away from the organization to raise his daughter, I believe, his niece, daughter, his daughter. Yeah, you don't
Yeah,
see a
daughter.
whole lot. You don't see her again after this scene in the next two volumes. So she comes
Oh,
back up later on.
he meant that the digital copy isn't the same as having the actual book in hand. No,
Oh
I
no.
would say we both agree with that.
Oh yeah,
That
absolutely.
statement.
But this is the easiest way for us to cover
Yeah.
these things.
Do you want me to hold my phone between my legs with the comic there while I'm wearing no pants while we do this? I mean, because I can.
Don't offer to do that because I'm definitely not streaming it. Not without charging. I wonder.
As long as I get it cut.
How about you don't get cut if you just shut up and do it? But
I don't know. Retro Ray just said yes. So.
uh, no, definitely, and that's a lot of the stuff that I do have. If I can get physical copies of it, that's what I actually read. But when it comes time to do the show and I want to showcase it, I've got to find a digital copy or a scan. Becky just said paper cut. Oh God.
Why would you say that?
So anyway, Mother's Milk. That's this guy's code name. They call him MM. But he and Butcher seem to be the closest. Butcher's an Englishman. Mother's Milk is an American. And his daughter is being rebellious. So, um, she's dressed like a skank and decided that she's going to go out with these three hood rats, or whatever. And Butcher says, "You know what? I got to go hit the head. I got to go take a piss." And he walks outside to confront the people that have come to pick up Mother's Milk's daughter, and basically just pulls his dick out and says, "Yeah, y'all don't want to mess with me," by crushing a gun with his bare hands. So then he blesses the daughter out and tells her to get inside and treat the man that's been raising her with a little bit of respect. And that essentially confirms that Mother's Milk, after much, I don't know, disagreement, decided that he was going to join the club. And now the whole gang's assembled. So pretty much where issue 2 ends up. Huey is moving to America. He hasn't 100% signed on yet, but he's gonna come try it out because what the hell else is he gonna do? Oh
Yeah, at
man, I
this
wish
point.
I could show that one on screen.
Oh.
But
Yeah, this whole sequence with the seven, that was pretty wild.
yeah, so this is again, it highlights the deconstruction of nature. Oh, definitely based as shit, based and red
Yes.
pilled. Um, but no, this leads us into issue 3. Issue 3 introduces the seven. Now, in this world, there are counterparts and equivalents for pretty much every recognizable hero, sometimes multiples for every recognizable hero you can think of. The seven are your Justice League equivalent. You've got there aren't exactly correlations between all of them. I mean, yes, you have a speedster, you have a Superman equivalent, you've got a light-based powered character, you've got an Aquaman essentially. You've got a Wonder Woman equivalent.
Which I think I think he's my favorite,
Who
just design wise.
the Deep, the guy that looks like
Yes.
the guy that looks like the ancient
The
scuba
Scooby Doo
diver.
villain.
Yeah, the ancient scuba
The,
diver in the fish tank.
yes. Yes, definitely my favorite out of all of them, just design wise.
But here, the Lamplighter has mysteriously been put out of commission for a short amount of time, and uh, what's her name?
Starlight.
Starlight. Yeah, Starlight is here to meet with the Homelander to temporarily fill in for his position. Now, being a deconstructionist comic, I don't know if any of you can guess where this is going to go, but essentially the Homelander welcomes her to the group, and after all the niceties and everything of the conversation, she's told that there's one final test that she has to maintain, and when she says, what's that?" He pulls his dick out and tells her to suck it. I guess I can show that particular image. That one's not too
Yeah,
bad.
you could show that one.
Right. So she really has no idea what he's talking about. She thinks he's joking or playing a sick joke or is even controlled by aliens until other members of the team come in and join on the action. So she's basically being prompted to blow her way into the group. And that's what this world is. Like that's pretty much what you.
Yeah. No, I just wonder, do they do that to the male members as well?
Oof. I mean, there's some degeneracy in this book. You've seen that.
Some.
Isn't that a Justice League cover? Justice League casting couch. That's great. So Huey's landed in America, and Butcher goes to pick him up, and obviously Terror goes where Butcher goes. So that's why he's my favorite character because he's just always like you were talking about, or Denny was talking last night about how number one was his favorite character in the book because of the drawing opportunities it gave the guy. I love the faces that Terror makes, like just dumbass bulldog waiting to fuck something.
And I love how he's just there. Like he barely does anything through most of these two volumes so far, but he's just always there, at least in the background, just kind of chilling with his dumbass looking bulldog smile.
But Butcher has pretty much already taken care of all of Huey's arrangements, and Huey has essentially decided to live in the worst fucking neighborhood and apartment complex anyone can live in. So Butcher picks him up and gives him his passport and a wad of cash, and you see that the bridge. What bridge is that? New York City.
The Brooklyn Bridge?
Is it the Brooklyn Bridge or is it the Hudson Bridge?
It's the Brooklyn Bridge.
I
It's
don't
the
know shit
Hudson
about New
River.
York. I don't know anything about New York. Give me a break. They don't name it, so hell, I could have said the Golden Gate Bridge.
You could have, and
Been
it
wrong.
probably would have got past. Well, you probably would have gotten it past a lot of people.
But the Brooklyn Bridge is utterly destroyed, and we'll find out about that coming up. That's not going to go on unnoticed anyway, but it's a little bit of artistic foreshadowing, and I love that about this because they
Oh,
don't
yeah.
even mention it. Like you don't even realize what's going on, like what the problem is. You just see that the bridge is utterly devastated, but they come back to it later. And by the time they come back to it, you're thinking about it, and you're like, oh shit, yeah, it was destroyed in that first book. So, little tease for anybody that decided to read the comics ahead of us. Um, you do get the background on that. But he gets his passport. Butcher's already made sure he was an American, and that's just kind of a explanation of why or how vast and broad the scope of this quote unquote establishment is. Um, Go ahead.
Yeah, what I like about it is just how you can, so in the typical like Marvel DC, if they destroy the Brooklyn Bridge, 2 issues later it's fixed, right?
Right.
Or in another series that's supposed to take place along the same general timeline, but nope, they just it's like, no, it's still fucked.
Yep.
And yeah, I was enjoying those little touches. Like there's quite a bit of that kind of stuff. If you look in the background of a lot of the scenes like that, you can kind of see like damage from superhero battles and stuff like that, kind of in the background of a lot of stuff going through these entire books, and I found that very compelling.
Oh yeah. Um, then we have the first meeting of the entire team, and you kind of get some interesting reactions here. Mother's Milk is a little standoffish, and he, just shakes Huey's hand and everything. But the Frenchman is just all up on him, talking about how the French and the Scots are allies and forever will be, all that good shit. And he reaches out to
being gay like French people do.
Yes, but go ahead and call the Frenchman gay. Let's see what happens. I think I saw what happened to the last guy that did that a few pages back. If you want to go refresh your memory, but Huey goes to shake hands with the female, and the Frenchman just like, "Oh no, bad idea, champ. You don't want to do that." And we see in volume 2 why that is, but but even the shocked look on everybody else's face in the background is just kind of an additional touch, even though they're not saying anything. Just how they're terrified of what's about to happen to Huey because he reached towards this girl.
Sounds like an ex-girlfriend I used to have back in high school.
I bet it does, Panama Red. Moving on along, we see that Starlight managed to gain entry into the Seven. And this character again will become much more important later on in the story. They're just kind of giving you her introduction, and it's almost a parallel side by side with Huey's. If you look at it, her introduction and Huey's introduction to this group are two sides of the same coin, so to speak. Because the boys are an establishment basically set aside to police the superheroes, and that's kind of what's been explained to Huey over the last few issues, is that they're in place to police the superhero community. So we see Starlight, puking after having to blow several members of the Seven, and she encounters the female, the other female member of the team, whose name is slipped my mind for the moment. Let me figure that out.
Same here.
Queen Maeve, Queen Mauve, Maeve, Maeve.
Maeve.
Yeah,
Yeah, that I think that's Maeve.
yeah. So she encounters her and is just like fangirling over her, looking for a little, I guess,
Validation.
validation. Yeah, it's a good word. Stop finishing my sentences. Will be people will start talking. But then they introduce pretty much the plot line for the next couple of issues to roll out this volume. We're introduced to a group. I guess you'd compare them to like the X-Men or Generation X or something like that, like an offshoot teenage.
I was thinking like Teen Titans almost.
Nah, that's like maybe, but
Because they're like the young like B level heroes.
yeah, but I mean, you've got the Wolverine counterpart, you got the Beast counterpart. True. I mean, like I said, they're an amalgam of several things, but this is like your rebellious, with an X in their name, teenage supergroup, and they're the bad boy versions of your average group. They're called the Teenage Kicks, Kix, like the cereal. And Billy has decided that they are going to be the boys' first target. And that's where we kind of
send a message to everybody else.
Yeah, that's where we kind of close up this issue. Huey doesn't quite understand what they mean, but they explain pretty early on in the next issue. Is that they're basically going to take these guys and plant bug devices on them. Oh man, I might be able to show that. Nah.
This is going to be a hard issue to pull pages from.
Yeah, well, aren't they all? Yeah, no, not that one. There we go. That works. The reflection in the lenses, I don't think will get us.
Okay. I also like how it's called, like the storyline is called Cherry.
Yes. So, Huey's been put on surveillance duty, and if you pay real close attention to the lenses there, you can see that the Teenage Kicks have been involved in a basic mass orgy at a whorehouse.
To put it mildly.
Yeah. And they're playing this game where as soon as the leader yells switch, they all run from like room to room. And they all run from room to room and change partners. So even the girls are making several prostitutes like pleasure themselves for entertainment. It's eyes wide shut times about 100.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
So, yeah, not to leave this up for too terrible long, but
we should also mention that Huey is enjoying doing all this surveillance, and that he was also like an Alex Jones level conspiracy theorist at the beginning of this whole debacle. So diving into that kind of behind the scenes thing kind of draws him in to the organization.
Right.
Or at least that's how I read it.
Yeah. Well, they switch from that and they cut over to a meeting with the head honcho of the Seven, the money man behind them from Vought American, which is if you played Resident Evil, they're the Umbrella Academy of this universe. And the Homelander is delivering the State of the Union address and kind of introducing Starlight, and A-Train, being their newest member before her, kind of goes out of line and gives her the old, imaginary blowjob joke, and Homelander catches it, and we'll come back around to that. But he definitely gets his comeuppance for that, and we get kind of an insight into how the Homelander actually acts in person. Oh, there's some nudity. There we go. I guess we'll just go ahead and skip to that part since we can't show any other pages in this freaking comic book.
So I mean, well, isn't there a scene from the surveillance van we can pull up, or is that after this?
It may be after this, but we can kind of talk about
Okay.
how they've spied on the teenage kicks at this party, and they're realizing that all the hookers are snorting stuff, and Butcher initially plays it off that it's coke. It's the only way that they can keep up with the supers, but it's actually the concoction that
The V,
yeah
whatever Formula V or whatever.
right that gives all the superheroes their powers and gives the boys the powers to stand up to them for a short amount of time.
And yeah, if you're a fan of very graphic brutality, that whole bit in the whorehouse is pretty graphic. Not just sexually, but
Oh yeah,
like you have one chick like holding her bits with like blood dripping through her hands
yeah,
and stuff. That part was wild.
right. And you know, and this book cuts around a lot. Like it's showing several things
Yeah.
simultaneously going on, or a sequence of things happening, but it shows them at a simultaneous pacing. So you'll get a page or two of one thing's going on, and a page or two of something else, and then it'll abruptly cut back. So we cut back to the meeting of the Seven, and the Homelander is disciplining A-Train, and basically threatens to outright murder him for raising a hand to defend himself. And you know, Starlight sees it, and
It's kind of a dick.
Yeah, well, you find out that Homelander is more concerned about the financial aspect of everything than him being improper towards the new recruit or anything, obviously. But
Right.
you don't be an asshole in front of the money, he says. So
Because it's all about the money.
it is. It is. But I mean, oh God, again. All right, so there's some of the teenage kids.
Yeah, sorry, folks. This is a very difficult issue to pull stuff from.
Right. There we go. That'll work.
Yeah, that'll work.
So, you see Mother's Milk in the crowd kind of keeping an eye on the teenage kicks and taking some surveillance shots of them. But you even see the little handy action going on down there in the bottom corner. And again, Mother's Milk is taking surveillance of this as well. You see one of the members cutting themselves, and the other one stealing pills from the event.
I thought from the children's hospital specifically.
The children's hospital, yeah. But again, Butcher gets these pictures, and it's as horrible as they are. He's like lovely because it's great blackmail here. Excuse me. But yeah, so you get kind of a glimpse into the degeneracy of this, and then their plan kind of starts to come to fruition. They send over a packet of their information. Oh wait, no, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. That's the beginning of the next issue.
Yeah.
So
we should.
Yeah, we'll cover this. We'll cover this first. Essentially, Butcher just injects Huey with the V formula, the stuff that the prostitutes were snorting, to keep them on pace, and then Huey just abruptly leaves the van. Like, what the fuck did you do that for? That's bullshit.
And this is the first time that we've seen Huey actually
kind of robotic a little bit there
at all.
Oh yeah, be assertive towards Butcher at
Am I
all
coming through?
because you're a little robot-y.
Yeah.
But yeah, he
Yeah.
you're good. You're good now. He asserts
Okay.
himself against Butcher and then walks off, and Butcher's like, I don't know. He may or may not come back. But Huey goes back home and picks up his passport and just sits there and thinks about it. And that's kind of the end of that issue. So they've got this blackmail evidence, and Huey has decided to leave the team. Now, I've already spoiled that we have 12 volumes of this to oh, there's a joke made about it at the beginning of the issue where Huey is talking about living in the shithole apartment, but we'll get to that.
I mean,
Oh,
that's most New York apartments,
right,
unless you're on
but
like the Upper West Side or something.
then he was talking about AIDS blood water seeping in through the floorboards, and that happens at the end of issue 4. So anyway, issue 5 starts up, and
Yes, if
Huey.
anyone out there is looking for apartments in New York, watch out for the AIDS bloods seeping through.
Right, that's what you pay the extra money for.
Exactly.
But Huey's sitting on a park bench at the beginning of the episode, and Starlight's alter ego, Annie January, sits down next to him, and they spark up a nice little conversation. I mean, it's very pleasant, and Huey is completely oblivious that he was just talking to a superhero in the set. And he starts to get a hard on for the girl. So, you know.
Which I actually really like this sequence.
Yeah,
I
mean,
thought it was a nice parallel between the two of them, as it's been kind of hinting at the parallels with them throughout the story, but having them actually meet and the way they talk and interact, I don't know, I liked it.
right.
It
Well,
wasn't too cheesy like it could have been, but it was.
no, not at all. But after that little sequence, you cut back to the boys' headquarters, and the female's playing with the dog, but everyone else is just falling all over themselves laughing, listening to the bugs that they've put in the Teenage Kicks headquarters because they've all gotten their blackmail material and they're trying to figure out who they're going to put on the chopping block because they have to decide or else somebody will, according to the blackmail they've been given. And yeah, it's not good, but the boys fucking love it.
Yeah, and man, I wish we could pull up some of that stuff because it's super entertaining.
Well, like I said, it's all the more reason to go purchase the comic if you can get your hands on it. But at the same time, I don't want to get this channel taken down as early as it is. I'd like to get up to at least 100 subscribers before we just completely show the channel. But
Hey, at 89, so
yeah. I mean, we're getting there, but still. But there, this is another one of those disjointed things. So I think this is a common. It's going to be a common thing, at least in these situations where you have the talking bubbles and you don't know where they're coming from necessarily, but you kind of
yeah,
pick up on what they're talking about. But then
yeah.
Huey finally shows back up, and they work everything out. Butcher explains to him what they're talking about and what's going on. Takes them out for lunch.
Best burger in New York City, as he puts it.
As he puts it, but Mother's Milk knows where one better is. But
Yes.
um, Huey again just lets him know, look, next time something like that's going to happen, just tell me. Don't be an asshole and just inject something in me without talking to me about it first. That seems like a fairly understandable request, but as we go
Yeah,
through this,
come on, Church. You could take a lesson from this.
look, man, I don't. When I want your opinion, I'll give it to you. But Butcher, Butcher hedges his bets, and this is again where you kind of see the manipulator in him. He's almost like an abusive boyfriend in the situation. He's like, okay, I promise, but he's gonna do shit like this again. I mean, that's just the way this book's already started unraveling, and we're only 5 issues in.
Right.
But the next couple of scenes just show them kissing and making up, and then we cut to a television of one of the teenage kicks shout out coming out as homosexual and saying that
And black.
oh well, yeah. I think Sandy Beige 42 is the appropriate term. Although he may be Sandy Beige 49, but yes, he is homosexual in Sandy Beige 49, and that means that he'll just get to join up again as soon as all the stuff blows over. But it was definitely a ploy to let everybody know that the
boys are back in town.
Yes, thank you for not making me say it. But the Homelander looks at it.
I wanted to quote Don Henley.
There you go. The Homelander sees it for what it is and immediately suspects the Butcher and contacts the teenage kicks to let them know, where to go extract a little vengeance, I guess. So we go back to a little meeting about what's going on between the Homelander and everybody else.
And
go ahead.
This is the part where he talks about Starlight's costume, right?
Right. I'm not going to pull that up. But we can briefly cover it.
I thought it actually it made me like that, coupled with the whole initiation sequence. It made me feel bad for her as a character with how ridiculous this book is.
Well, you find out that she's come from a super team that's essentially like Young Justice. It's a Christian-oriented super team, and they have morals and ethics and religious values, and all of this stuff. But he's just basically telling her to cut a big V swath into the front of her costume so that there's ample side boob showing, calling it more photogenic, when she suggests that they need to come out in solidarity for one of their team or for one of their fellow superhumans. And all he says is, well, you should cut this into your costume so that you'll be more photogenic according to our merchandising guys. And then walks off, dropping the marker down in front of her. Like, it's awful. But at the same time, we go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, so much of this book is like ridiculous and makes you laugh, but it does a good job of balancing it out with like that kind of characterization. Like, she's kind of like that young, like naive, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, like initiate into this bigger world that she just doesn't understand. She thinks it's something that it's not, and just slowly seeing her kind of realize what it actually is really a very well written arc, because they do it in a very subtle way, just with like the little expressions on her face, how her expression slowly changes throughout the books and stuff. That was probably honestly one of my favorite character arcs in these 2 volumes so far.
Well, she only really got coverage in this first one because the next ones, they're not in America for long, but still, and she's gonna flesh out a lot more as a character. Again, spoiler alert. She'll be back. We're gonna see some very interesting shit with her. With everybody, actually. Like, you're probably gonna be really surprised by the time we get to the end of this, looking back on the first issue and the first volume.
I'm hoping so.
Like, you're probably gonna be very surprised to where we actually end up, considering where we start. But we'll get there. It'll be 6 months, but we'll get there.
Yeah, fair enough.
But well, 5 more after this one. So, but
You know.
we end the issue with the teenage kicks deciding they're going to confront the boys, and Billy just starts laughing, and everybody is just waiting to tear into these guys except Huey. Huey looks terrified, but the time frame tells us that his superhuman formula has kicked in, and he just doesn't know it yet.
Yeah.
So that takes us to the final chapter in Volume 1 is this next issue here. Oh yeah, there we go. That's a perfect image.
Oh yeah.
So
All I could think of
here's the
was
cover.
the South Park episode.
Yeah. So here's the cover for the next issue that we're about to talk about. I'm going to leave that to your imaginations for a minute while we talk about the fact that these teenage superheroes essentially just get rolled the fuck over on by these 5 unlikely individuals. Like Billy just completely wrecks this one guy's face and teeth in a headbutt.
Well, that's something that Butcher mentions actually earlier in the series, that they're untrained, and that's part of the problem.
Right. That's he has the biggest issue with is the fact that they're not competent in what they do.
Yeah.
Let me get it pulled up here. But no, this fight doesn't go the way anybody expects it to. Essentially, the heroes think they're just going to walk all over these normies, and they get their shit kicked in. Mother's Milk, I mean, the female, and Huey's just kind of like cowering in the corner, and Butcher finally yells at him, "Look, just handle Blarney Cock." I'll pull that up.
Which has to be one of my favorite names.
Yes.
Besides Love Sausage.
We'll get to Love Sausage. But Huey doesn't know how strong he is, and he's about to
Are
get
you
his
sure? Have you seen the time?
Huh? Yeah. We started 30 minutes
Are you
late,
sure?
remember?
Have you seen the time? Oh, yeah.
I guess. And we talked for 5 to 10 minutes before we started. Don't question me, okay? You know what? If we got to cut into Racket's time slot, we'll cut into Racket's time slot. We have a replay. People will leave, but they might come back. I don't know. They probably won't. But, Huey doesn't know how strong he is, so while he's being assaulted, he just runs his hand through this guy, just murdering him outright. And then Butcher's just, grabbing Shout Out by the crotch and swinging him around. 2 pages. And
this was a fantastic fight scene, by the way.
Right, yes. All of them are in this. Hold on one second. All of them are in this particular storyline. Like, just all the fight scenes in this comic are fantastic because the artwork is it's just so good. Like, his characters are to scale. Like, you can honestly see people fighting like this if they were this strong. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
yeah, it gives the realistic twist on superheroes that Man of Steel failed to give us.
Right. But obviously Huey's a little taken aback because he killed someone. But after Blarney Cock dies, they discover that somebody happened to survive the encounter.
Oh, I re-looked at that page like 4 times just because I was like, wait, what? No, please don't be what I think this is.
Yeah. And Huey is the only one that
Oh,
will.
Lemmy Winks.
Yeah, Huey is the only one that will touch the little fella after he climbs up of the Blarney Cox backside. And they decide to go get it a cage and a wheel and then get it a wash and everything like that. And Huey's just going to keep it for a pet.
Oh, ass hamsters.
Don Chen is disavowing us right now.
Well, there goes that opportunity.
Yeah, I know, right?
Right down the toilet.
But yeah, so we get an ass hamster out of a dead superhero, and then we get the introduction of Starlight's new costume. Oh wait, before that we actually get a shot of the funeral and Butcher's complete and utter disgust with the whole superhero funeral shindig because it's such a fake thing. But you see the aftermath of the teenage kicks on the sidelines being all busted up and broken and unable to keep moving. You get a few choice words with some of them, the ones that can still talk at least. But then you cut back to Vought American, an interview where they introduce Starlight as a fill-in member and her new costume and how very uncomfortable she seems in it.
Yeah.
Just the body language alone. I mean, that's another testament to the artwork is that this guy's got human body language down to almost a science. Just in artwork.
You can feel how uncomfortable she is just in that one panel.
Mm-hmm. But they introduce her as the new member, and the boys talk about it. But again, Huey doesn't see this interview, so he still has no idea that that's the girl that he talked to on that bench. And that pretty much covers the story. I mean, Huey decides he'll stick around for a little while longer, but he still hasn't decided that he's fully committed to joining. And
yeah, he's being a big cock tease to Butcher. So.
Right. You get some sketch auxiliary material. You were asking me before, is the script thing something Dynamite does in all their books? And I think this told you that it
wasn't.
Yeah. So.
Well, there was a lot of them right in a row that all had that in there. So.
Right. Well, we'll go ahead and jump into Volume 2. If you wanna talk about Volume 1 for a second, maybe.
Yeah, it's definitely more intense than you think it might be just from the quick description of it. Like I said, it's Man of Steel, but done right and well. This artist, I think, has to be, as far as like expression and body language of character goes, has to be probably the best we've looked at so far.
Right.
Just, I don't think we've really looked at a book that goes into that much detail in facial expressions for like every single panel. Like usually if it's a close-up or something, they add a little bit more detail, but they kind of tone it down on some of the other panels. But in this, it's pretty much every single shot.
Right.
You get detailed coloring, lighting, body language, facial expressions. It's really, as far as that goes, probably one of the best we've done so far. And the story is just a crazy, wild ride from start to finish.
Well, and like I said, the second volume's really where you start to kind of get the nail on the head of what the analogies between the characters are.
Yeah.
You know what characters are supposed to be synonymous with which other ones. But I really liked that aspect of it from the beginning when they explained that the seven, and everyone knows that the seven is it's the Justice League,
Yeah.
you know. But um, I guess go ahead and jumping into issue two. Um, we're introduced to the Legend, and that's the character on the cover. He'll be important pretty much for the rest of the series as well, off and on. He's he's kind of a recurring gimmick, but what I'm seeing in just rereading all of this is that usually the storylines are between 3 and 4 issues as opposed to taking up an entire 6. So you had your introduction story, and then you had the story called Cherry, and then this story is going to be called Get Some, and this is a story of it's a story of the Tech Knight and a murder that the Legend has pretty much tasked everyone with investigating. So I guess we'll just kind of get into it.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start with this one.
Yeah. Well, we can kind of talk about the Legend. It's it's a very interesting concept, but I'm not too keen on it because it feels. Oh man, okay, yeah, that's pretty perfect right there. We'll start with Tech Knight. Tech Knight is in a psychiatrist office, and
In his full armor.
yes, now this guy is essentially your Tony Stark slash Batman because he has a sidekick, and it's a sidekick that's aged out of being his sidekick, but he's an armor centric billionaire. So, and he's got a cave. So he's Batman and Iron Man in one. But he's got a problem. The thought will pop into his head that he should basically start having sex with something, even if it's an inorganic, inanimate object, like a watermelon or the hole in the side of a wall. But even if it's an
Or
android's
the lamp.
anus or an android's anus. So,
I mean, really, is that much different from a 13-year-old boy?
I disavow.
Come on, you were 13 once, Church.
Oh, I get what you're saying now. I still disavow,
Yes.
but it's much better than what I initially thought you were saying. I was thinking I
No,
was gonna
his
have to. I was gonna have to fire you for real this time.
No, his condition isn't that much different than a 13-year-old boy.
But
Jeez,
no.
Church, what the hell?
Hey man, I
You
don't
call
know.
me the degenerate.
Hey, hey. I've been on 4chan, man. I don't take anything for granted anymore.
That's a fair point.
But anyway,
Never talk about B.
Who?
B.
Who? Anyway, he can't figure out why he has this compulsion, and he's at the psychiatrist trying to figure it out. And while the psychiatrist is out of the room, the psychiatrist cat walks over, and then he is asked to leave the psychiatrist office and never come back.
But it's revealed he tried to fuck the psychiatrist's lamp, not the cat, because he asked for burn cream.
Yes. But still, I think it's funnier to think that he tried to fuck both of them, and the cat just,
Scratch the hell out of his dick.
Yeah. Well, here we go. I guess we can touch on Huey as well. Huey has jumped back into the group, and he's officially been welcomed by the gifting of his own trench coat. And,
Black leather trench coat.
and
This is like Columbine school shooter style trench coat right here.
and the butcher explains that he just wants them to look like a bunch of hard asses. That's why they wear the trench coats. No reason. But we get a check in on the hamster. The hamster's still good. I'm assuming he's had a bath, maybe some therapy himself. I hope he's had some therapy.
Yeah, Jackie sat there and gave him therapy after that ordeal.
Yeah, no joke. Now, you
this is a hard section. This jumps around a lot.
yeah, well, the whole story does, but it's fairly easy to. There we go. They stop off at a comic book shop to meet the legend, and they're told they have to wait, and that's because the legend has a guest of the night, you would say, and he eventually just tells her to leave after the owner or the guy that runs the shop sent the guest down before they were finished, and I forget the what was the actual comment they made, trying to shoot pool with a length of rope because he was trying
Something like
to
that.
he was trying to get some hooker to fillet him, and he said, same time next week. Right now, this is trying to shoot pool with a length of rope." And I think that's my favorite line in this entire volume.
Really, your favorite line
Favorite line in this volume, yes.
in this volume?
Oh yeah.
I could see maybe this issue.
Well, this story. How about that one? How about this part of the story?
Okay.
Because I'll give it to something Love Sausage said later on. But the legend is he's basically the Stan Lee copy of this world, and that I have a little bit of problem with because Stan Lee was a really really good guy, and this guy's a goddamn degenerate.
Come on, you don't think back in the '60s Stan Lee was getting head?
Hey,
in
I'm
the
sure
back of his studios.
I'm sure he was, but he was under mind control or something. Stan Lee was a saint. We don't talk bad about him on this channel. If Stan Lee was getting head, he deserved that head. He created Spider-Man, for God's sake.
Hey, I'm not saying he didn't deserve it. I'm just saying he probably was.
And he was happily married at the time, I'm sure. So it was probably Mrs. Stan Lee.
Yeah, that's, whatever.
But anyway, the legend explains that the comic books are essentially in this universe. Comic books do exist of the superheroes in this universe, and they're the PR releases of what happens. So if somebody dies of a heart attack from doing too much cocaine, they'll write a story about how they died saving the world from alien invaders or something like that. It's just a way to handle the PR and keep the public image of superheroes good and keep the money coming in.
So now I hope when I die, Church, you write a comic book, highlighting my death as something good, not rock and roll degenerate.
No, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to wait until you die saving an orphan full of starving kittens. And then I'm going to,
Why would the orphan be full of starving kittens?
I don't know what you do on your weekend times. I'm just spitballing here. But
my weekends, I'm here on this show and I'm reading comics.
Yeah, well, just be careful of what I inject you with, okay? Might want to start drinking refined brake fluid or something to.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it.
But
that'll make sense in like 20 minutes, folks.
Yeah, we'll get there. But anyway, the legend has a case for him. Somebody that he knows, or for some reason, he wants them to look into a death that he suspects to be superhero involved, and he knows that's what Butcher's all about. So, meanwhile, we jump back and forth to Tech Knight, and Tech Knight has decided it's in everyone's best interest if his 10-year-old sidekick Ladio goes on a hero's quest to visit all the super teams in the world, all of them. You have to visit them. You have to apprentice with them. You have to not be here because I keep putting my dick in things. So
Which I'm glad they did that, because
yeah,
when they first showed that, I was like, oh no, please don't have
yeah,
him rape the kid.
yeah. Nope, nope. He managed to control himself, to that point, but he definitely implied that the urge was there. So we can already see this storyline. It's going downhill. It's just
That's putting it mildly.
oh yeah. So now they have this file and this comic book that are telling two completely different stories, and essentially they start trying to figure out how they're going to deal with it. So they've got a name of a victim and they've got a name of a super, and the super that they're looking at is named Swing Wing. Um, so you got that going
Which
for you.
took me so long to get in my head what it was.
Yeah. Well, it's like Nightwing.
Yeah.
So, um, but the victim here has a normal name, Steven something. I can't remember the last name. But is a homosexual man, and he's supposed to have had a crush on Swing Wing. And that's pretty much all they have to go on. I'm just kind of breeze through the rest of that particular story arc. I know it covers a couple of more issues, and we can pull some stuff up from it, but I mean, it's convoluted and it takes up a lot of time. But
Yeah.
essentially, Wee Huey is going on and on about how you know Butcher is being homophobic, quote unquote, by using English slurs for homosexuals. And then when it comes time to brass up and go into a gay bar to ask some questions, um, Butcher goes in and carries on a conversation without any issue, but it's Huey is the one that has the problem actually interacting with gays. So it's kind of a very interesting dynamic. I'll save that for next time. But it's kind of a very interesting dynamic in that regard. But they get a suspect, and they eventually figure out who Swing Wing is. Oh, that's
Which
funny.
it and also in the quote unquote like the comic books of their time, like in their universe, like he's kind of promoted as the gay friendly character, so he has to go to all these like
Community meetings and whatnot.
yeah.
And he drags along Tech Knight, and that's kind of where it circles back in. So Tech Knight's still having his issue, but now we're with this murder plot, and Swing Wing is suspected of being homosexually involved with both Tech Knight and the victim, and Tech Knight is supposed to be the murderer. But eventually, you find out that Tech Knight or Swing Wing both aren't supposedly gay. Tech Knight just has this problem. He doesn't know why, and he honestly doesn't know why he keeps having these issues. But it also develops further in this issue where he has an Alfred of sorts, a manservant, a Jarvis, briefly. I want to show this too. I'll just pull that up as well. I just want to cover that concept while we're talking. But
The reverse strip poker.
yes, there we go.
Well,
So,
and also, what's the other game they play?
they play Monopoly on a Parcheesi board.
Yeah, that's what it was.
But yeah, they're playing reverse strip poker, and but anyway, we also see that Tech Knight essentially stuck his dick in his butler's ear, and his butler swears to secrecy, but we all know that's not going to work out. So the butler leaves and swears to secrecy and all that good stuff. And I know I'm kind of rushing through like we normally do on the second volume, but at the same time, this book is just so disjointed.
It really is.
I mean, at the very end, you have Huey and Butcher showing up at Tech Knight's house, figuring out who he was while they're trying to figure out who Swing Wing is. So
And he tries to take off his armor and hide it under a leopard rug
yeah,
quickly.
right. But it doesn't matter because Butcher already knows exactly who he is. He walks over to his bookcase and opens up the secret entrance to his hideout while they're having a conversation. So
While he's denying being Tech Knight.
Yeah. So yeah, just generally kind of moving forward, he explains that he's not a homosexual. He's had no homosexual tendencies, and he didn't really like being around the gay community, but he had to go because Swing Wing was his old partner. And this is the part where Butcher thinks that he's guilty. Oh, there we go. That's a good one. Watermelon action there.
Oh.
Oh no, I've got the second page
This.
up. But oh well, you know what? Fuck it. We'll show the one you wanted to. I just thought it was funnier them laughing at it than the actual
True.
scene. But anyway,
I mean, if you've ever been out drinking till 2 a.m, then ordered way too much Taco Bell, and that next morning when you wake up hungover, you understand what he's feeling in this scene.
oh yeah, just barbs, man. But
yeah, those hot rings that you get from the whiskey shits mixed with the fire sauce from Taco Bell.
Oh yeah, that's the best. But anyway, they're interrogating Tech Knight in his cave, and they come across the watermelon that he's violated, and Huey takes a shit on his floor just because he can't get into the bathroom. That's pretty much
well, because he says like damn burrito or something like that.
Fucking burritos, yeah.
Or fucking burritos, whatever it was.
But Huey puzzles out that it's not. Oh, there we go. That's a good one. But Huey puzzles out that it wasn't Tech Knight, that it was Swing Wing when he gets outed by his butler. And Tech Knight just is tired of their shit. So when they show back up uninvited, then he takes target at them, and the female just pops up out of nowhere and fucks his whole world up. So he gives them the location to where to get a hold of. Or no, he doesn't, does he?
No.
They get that from the gay
the
bar
couple
guy.
from the rooster.
Yeah, the gay bar.
Yeah, whatever it's called, something rooster.
So they go and interrogate Swing Wing and come to find out that it was all just kind of a mishap because Swing Wing was trying to be positive with a gay fan and found out that he had a crush on him. It's all terrible.
It really,
I mean, that takes us
it
into
really
issue 10.
is.
We say we'll probably cap it off at well, we need to go over Love Sausage, don't we?
Oh, there's a lot in that story, in
There
that
is,
storyline.
and we're already at an hour and a half. But this is 10 issues in. We can cap it at this. So we can cap it at this and cover Love Sausage in the first part of the next one.
Okay.
We'll just do 10 issues each because, like I said, I didn't think about it, but the second volume is almost twice the length of the first one.
Yeah, I noticed that when I started reading it. I was like, "Damn you, Church!"
Hey, not my problem, man.
It's your show.
But that doesn't make it my problem. Your problem, my show.
Okay. Fair enough.
We'll touch on it. We'll see if we can. We'll touch on the Love Sausage. How about that? But,
yeah, we're gonna touch that Love Sausage.
But I know Rackets is getting ready to start up, so I didn't want to run too far into that. Mainly because I want to go watch it. But they find out where Swing Wing lives, and they go confront him, and they find out that it was all kind of a mishap. That they didn't mean to. That he didn't mean to kill the kid. He was just taken aback by what he was hearing because while he's all gay positive in the main sense of everything,
he's not a fan of the Fudge Packers.
He's not. And in the process of finding this out, it's going to be a little backwards, but I think we should see it in that sequence. The process of finding this out, Huey has to knock the shit out of him to keep him from trying to escape, but doesn't kill him this time. And that's important. We see
it is important.
Yeah, we see Butcher just kind of hanging back and letting Huey handle this, so I think he's trying to condition him to be used to it. And after this, he tells him like, "Look, that's the kind of job this is, Keith. You're gonna have to hurt people." But we find out that it was kind of an accident, and Swing Wing I think dies later on because of his jetpack malfunctioning, and I think you see Butcher tampering with the jetpack in an earlier scene before the death is mentioned. Yeah, there we go. We'll pull that up, but afterwards, when the Tech Knight has been exposed, he's walking down the street, and he saves a mother and her child from being hurt. And hold on one second. I think my co-host has abandoned me here. There we go. You there?
Yes.
What
I
happened?
think Skype booted me for. I don't know. It cut out. It just went away and said reconnecting, poor connection. Like out of nowhere.
Well, I'll have to fire you better next time. But what I was saying is, I pulled up the image of Swing Wing getting his backpack, his jetpack screwed up with, and that I honestly think that Butcher sabotaged him so that he would die, but that's just kind of left to your interpretation. But the fact that he's screwing with the jetpack here kind of implies it, I think.
Yeah.
And in the epilogue, you see Tech Knight in his civilian identity basically walking down the street feeling like he's just been completely ruined.
Well, and someone calls him Owl Fucker, don't they?
Yes, but in the
Because that's actually that was actually something. Because an owl comes and lands next to him, and he just goes, "Oh no."
yeah. um, but he jumps into action to save a woman and a kid from a falling wheelbarrow, and apparently takes a nice knock to the head from it because everything you see from this point on is supposedly imagined in his comatose state before he dies. But the autopsy reveals that well, why don't you go ahead and tell him about what his coma fantasy is?
I have to do this one.
I've done the rest of them.
Well, so it's it's shown that there's a bunch of meteors coming towards Earth, and they're kind of destroying a bunch of shit and whatnot. But there's the main, like the big, like dinosaur killing meteor coming to hit Earth. But there is an opening inside the meteor made out of organic matter. And Tech Knight realizes he is the only one with the ability to stop this meteor. So he tells Houston that he is going to stop it and proceeds to fly into space and fuck the meteor to death.
Until it explodes. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think I should.
Sacrificing himself in the process.
Right, for the greater good, I suppose. um, let's see here. Yeah, being called a hero after shit talking the meteor while he was fucking it.
Oh yes, yes. He calls the meteor a whore and a bitch,
Tells
and then
it to come.
the people on the ground are
Cheering him on for it. Like,
yes, people are cheering him on.
But it's revealed in the prologue that he pretty much got hit in the head by the wheelbarrow and went into a coma and essentially just imagined the whole thing as he was dying. And the autopsy revealed that his impulse to fuck everything came from a tumor the size of a fist in the back of his head. So that'll wrap it up for this installment of of the boys. This is one of my favorites. One of my favorite comic book stories that I've ever picked up, and it's because I love the superhero fair. Like I love Legion of Superheroes, Justice League, X-Men, Avengers. But a good deconstructionist story like The Dark Knight Returns is a good deconstructionist story. Frank Miller, Garth Ennis, Grant Morrison. It's really their bread and butter for a lot of their comic books. Like The Watchmen is a very similar storyline. But this, I think, takes it up to 1,000. It takes the knob that it takes a knob that goes.
This
up
one
to
goes
11.
up to 11.
Yes, takes a knob that goes up to 11, and it just kind of keeps turning it once the bracket breaks and just free spins. It just keeps going. Um, the link, like I said, is down in the description below. I think you can get the omnibus for $60, or you can get all 12 volumes for between $5 and $6 a piece. So definitely worth checking out. Like Retro Ray said, if you can get your hands on the physical copies, definitely something to do. If nothing else, so you can send them to me and help me complete my collection. But otherwise,
Yes, Church is gonna start a PO box 3 states over from where he actually lives.
That's right. That's right. And I'm going to put a magnet inside of it in case you try to send me a phone. How ridiculous was that? Like Yellow Flash. I know we don't talk about the drama very much, but let's just talk about Yellow Flash receiving a cell phone. as part of an
Yeah.
attempt to dox him, and they didn't even put a battery charger in it to keep it charged. Like you would think they'd just spring for the $5 battery pack to keep it charged up.
So, what idiot tried to do that one? Do they know?
I'm guessing they do, but there's all kind of talk about criminal litigation and stuff like that. So everybody's kind of being quiet. But it's been an interesting ride. But anyway, back to the comics. I really like this story. I think that's kind of apparent from the get go. What about you, man? What did you think of it?
Yes, this was a fun story, a lot different than what I'm used to reading, which I guess has been most of the stuff we've covered so far. But yeah, I liked the twist on the superhero genre. I would recommend it if you like that more deconstructionist sort of brutal, gruesome sort of content, then you'll definitely like this book or these books.
You know, if you like Superman being a Boy Scout and you like Batman using shark repellent, this might not be your book. But if you like The Dark Knight Returns, if you like The Watchmen, if you like stuff that just really takes the comic genre and the tropes and everything and just turns them on their head, then it's definitely something to check out. If nothing else, you know, spend a few bucks and get the first volume in digital. If you don't like it, you're out $5, and you know what to avoid. Anything with the name Garth Ennis on it going forward. Garth Ennis is also the author of a book called Preacher, which is another title that's on our list of things to cover. Speaking of things we're going to cover, let's kind of go ahead and give a brief update on what the next few shows are going to be. As it stands now, these are all subject to change because we are not professionals.
Okay, let's see where. All right, so Saturday.
Saturday we're planning on covering some form or fashion of Magic the Gathering comics with someone that is a friend of the channel, Kevin over at It Resolves Magic the Gathering, an up and coming Magic the Gathering YouTuber that does some pretty interesting content. They do some deck builds. They talk about sets. They do cracker packs and they do for gold cards. It's a lot of fun. I believe
it should be noted that I know nothing about Magic the Gathering. So, if anything else, come to watch just for that because they'll probably be roasting me the entire show.
Oh no, man! Well, Magic the Gathering is a trading card game, collectible trading card game.
I know that. I know that.
I've been playing off and on for 20 years now. I don't know how long Kevin has been playing, but he knows more than me about the game, and is definitely better on the financial side of it than I am from what we've talked about. But he runs a pretty up and coming YouTube channel. I was just hoping that if he had any comic fans, I might be able to steal them. No bullshit there.
Hopefully.
Then Sunday we are going to see if Mr. Deadman and Becky will be available to wrap up Lock and Key, the main story. It is Mother's Day, so that is a very tentative date. That may even end up being, a show that we do Monday evening, just depending, but I doubt it. So let's just kind of stay tuned on that one. The following week, we have Johnny the Homicidal Maniac slotted for Saturday the 18th. And
as requested by Mrs. Church.
By Mrs. Church, yes.
Numerous times.
To me personally, not on the show, but to me personally,
no.
Yes.
Or on the private calls. I've heard her say it a few times.
Yeah. But we also are going to have another top 10. So if there's anything specifically anybody wants to see on a top 10, let us know. If not,
Yeah,
we
I
will
was thinking about running a poll on that actually.
we'll take some initiative, man. Do it. But we'll kind of keep you guys abreast. We've got pretty much until the 8th of June set up as it stands, but everything again is subject to change. Um, you know, Ayrton may kill me in my sleep and end the show for good. Who knows? Mrs. Church may do the same thing.
I mean, that sounds like a lot of effort.
Yeah, well, nothing good in life comes without work, man. Anyway,
Okay, the risk reward factor doesn't sound good enough. How's that?
just call Nick Ricada, tell him it was in Minecraft. He'll just be happy when I stop DMing him. But anyway, I think that's about all we've got for this evening. Is there anything you wanted to close out with? Solid recommendation from me, definitely,
Yeah.
on this book.
Yes.
Like I said, I know everybody's probably tired of me reading comic books that I like. I'm guessing we'd probably get more viewers if I was just on here ranting about things that I hated. But
Just you wait. Because Sunday,
sure,
June 9th, I get to pick what we're reading. So just you wait.
Yes. You guys should definitely flood at AARCHER_91 with recommendations of good comics. That way he is obliged to hold up his obligation to the fans. But anyway, until next week, guys, thank you for stopping by. Thank everybody in the chat. Becky, Ray, let's see, who else was in
Gulf
here?
City.
Gulf City, Robin, everybody for stopping by. We really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody watching on the replay. Drop a like, throw your subscription up, hit the bell if you feel like it. We're pretty much here every week at the same time, so don't worry about the bell if you don't like it. But anyway, thanks for all the support, and we will see you again next week.
And good night.